All right, just a little update, YouTube. It is 6:51 in the morning. We're October the 9th today. I just stopped to go to the restroom and take care of morning business. I've already picked up my load and I'm about 20 miles into the journey. But I had decided, looking at the map, where I was going to stay is going to be at one of the terminals. And it's only 19 miles from where I have to deliver this load. Now, I can deliver this load at midnight tonight, or I have until 11:59 tomorrow night, but I have that load to pick up at 4 p.m. in the same area, actually within a mile of each other. So what I'm going to do is just take this load. I got 488 of the 539 miles to go. And whenever I went to my dispatch, so this is what it looks like. Oh, I had a grayed out one this morning again. So, Johns Manville, I'm not really sure what they do there, but anyways, that was grayed out this morning. But since I made it there, it's okay. And then I said, okay, I'm going to stop at Swift. And before I could even put in the address myself, they already predicted it for me. So Swift is going to try to get you, always going to try to get you, what am I trying to say? They're always going to be thinking what's going to be in your best interest, how people drive. And this thing right here is, Swift is actually my fuel stop. So that just happens to be on my plan where I was going to stop for the night anyway, because it's only 19 miles from where I got to go. So this is one of those situations where my plan and their plan worked out to be exactly the same. So I will update y'all whenever I get to where I am going and tell you how I'm going to proceed. Basically, I'm going to get there around 2 o'clock this afternoon, and then I'm not going to head out until 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, drop this load, and I'll actually be about an hour early for the load that I have to pick up at 4 p.m. And then I will start forwarding that load until my time runs out. But I'll explain more as we go along. But we're approaching 7 o'clock, and I got 488 more miles to go. So I'll check back in with y'all later. Peace. What up, YouTube? So it is 5:43. We are still October 9th. I am at the terminal. The fucking fuel pump is down, so that's some bullshit. So I'm gonna have to go looking for fuel in the morning. Um, but so you hear a lot of people on YouTube talking about driving 500 to 600 miles a day. 500 is pretty easy to do. In California, it's a little harder to do because when you're coming through Tejon Ranch, the speed limit drops down to 45 and even 35 for a little bit. But the entire state of California, which is what I'm driving through, is 55 miles an hour. So it and a lot of times you get stuck in traffic when you're in the city and stuff like that. Jurupa Valley is outside of Los Angeles, so it's still very much a metropolis kind of area. And y'all excuse my fingernails. There's a story behind that. My toes got done, but my fingers, I'm got an appointment here in Jurupa in the morning. Um, the story for another time. But so anyways, when you talk about trying to do 500 to 600 miles a day, typically we're talking about we already have our load and we're just waking up and driving. Because, I mean, most people have done the math. They're like, oh, how can you drive 600 miles a day and you only have 10 hours? Well, you're obviously not a truck driver because you have 11 hours. So that's how we do that. So, but what people are trying to catch us lying about is within an 8-hour period, you have to take a 30-minute break. So out of the 11 hours, you technically only have 10 and a half hours. They think. That's not the way it works. You have 14 hours to drive 11 hours. So your 11 hours that you can drive, just because you take a break, they're like, oh, you only have 10 and a half hours left because you have to take a break. No, dumb ass. And I'm not saying that to be rude. You're just being ignorant. The 30-minute break comes out of those other 3 hours of off-duty time. So you can legally drive 11 complete hours a day. I'm fixing to show you how it works and how far you can get. My drop and hook this morning. So I got up at 3:30, left around. I took my time. I was watching Mayans. I think I left the fucking place around 4:45, 5 o'clock, something like that. Um, the truck stop, and I was 53 miles. I think I just spit everywhere. Sorry. I was 53 miles from where I had to drop my empty and pick up this load. This load I can drop anywhere between midnight tonight and 11:59 p.m. tomorrow, but the load that I'm taking to Kentucky, I have a strict window of 4 p.m. tomorrow, and where I drop this load and pick up my next load, there's only 1 mile difference. So this bitch is gonna sleep in, do some writing, maybe YouTube a little. I don't fucking know. But I do have my nail appointment. That's first thing on the list. But I'm not gonna start my clock at 5 in the morning like I normally do. I'm not gonna start my clock until about 2:30. I'm only 19 miles away from where I need to drop. Traffic can be a little interesting in California, as we have all learned. And like I said, the drop and pickup are 1 mile away from each other. So I don't have to start my clock until late in the afternoon, because when I do pick up at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, I want to start forwarding that load. I'm going to fuck up my sleep schedule, and I don't have to, but I'm going to. And that's just the way it is. So, and then what'll happen is the next morning I will get up after my 10 hours, and slowly but surely I'll work my way back to getting up at 5 in the morning. You just kind of do what works for you. Like I said, you have these windows of time, you have your clocks. As long as you know how to work your clocks or make them work for you, you can drive at night, you can drive during the day. You know, if I wanted to wait and say, fuck it, I'm going to go drop this shit off in 10 hours from right now. Right now, say it's 6 o'clock. So, fuck it, I'm going to get up at 3, at 4 o'clock in the morning when my 10 hours is up. I'm going to leave here and I'm going to go drop this load. Well, then you're just going to be sitting around wasting a bunch of time waiting until 4 p.m. Then when you pick up at 4 p.m., you're going to be out of hours, which is fine. You could do that. And then wake up at 3 and start driving the next morning. I could do that and keep my same schedule, but I'm going to press myself for time and miles the rest of the way. So I choose not to do that. I'd rather pick the load up and start forwarding it as far as I can and get as far as I can every single day. Then I can relax once I get there and I got time. I prefer to do all my work at one time and get it over with, get the brunt of the work over with, and be ready, like knocking on the receiver's door. Like, that's just the way I personally like to work. You do whatever works for you. So, I woke up, I did all my morning stuff. Okay, I pre-tripped. I was, about an hour away from the shipper. Had to go inside, do the paperwork. He wanted to chit chat for a little while, but I actually dropped and hooked and was out of the parking lot in under 30 minutes, which is really good. So that takes time. Normally I allot an hour for the drop and hook process, because sometimes you got to wait in line. Sometimes I've been to this shipper before. Sometimes I have to wait for them to clear a dock for me to park. Today they were ready for me. I was in and out in under 30 minutes. Life was great. And they had already moved my pickup trailer to the front because I'd already conversed with them and told them what time I was going to be there. So they had it set up for me. I was in and out. So with the exception of 30 minutes for my break, which comes out of my off-duty time, so you really don't even have to count that. driving time wasted on driving to the shipper and doing the drop and hook, say hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. Getting back on the freeway, you can just estimate, say 2 hours out of the 11. So technically I drove straight. I did not stop any other time except for my 30-minute break. I didn't stop for any restroom breaks or anything. And I did get stuck. Like I said, right now it's 5:51 here. When I hit the Tejon Ranch area of California, I got stuck in nonstop traffic. I actually had to switch. I had 17 miles and 17 minutes left on my clock. I knew I wasn't going to make it, so I just stopped. Luckily, we were in traffic. I just stopped and switched to personal conveyance. Otherwise, I would have got a fucking ding on my clock because I wouldn't have made it. It took me an additional 30 minutes to get here. California's like that, though, so you do what you got to do, but you definitely don't pull off onto the shoulder because they're not going to fucking let you back on. I would have been spending the night on the shoulder. So luckily, there was enough time for me to, I was stopped. I was in traffic, switched over to personal conveyance, typed in safety spot. They know what I'm doing. They can look it up and see. Life is great. We made it. No problem. So here's what my clock looks like. Now again, I made it with 1 minute on that DOT clock, really pushing it. And still today, 526 miles. So it can be done. Now, when you come off your mentor's truck and get in your own truck, thank you for focusing, Jesus. You might not be able to sit 6-7 hours straight without going pee. Lord knows I couldn't. We all remember my video with my mentor, like, and looking back on it now, I probably would have acted the same fucking way if I did it all over again, because you just don't know what you're getting yourself into until you're actually out here. And until it's your clock and your time and your money on the line, and it still takes a while. I used to stop. Oh, I have to pee. Like, I could have held it, but I'd be like, oh, well, I'm doing my own thing now, so I can pull over whenever the fuck I want to. And I still do that when I have the time. What the fuck I'm going to make myself wait another 30 miles for when I can just fucking stop now and get it over with? So when I have time, yeah, I take time. I get out and take scenic pictures. I have my GoPro here. You know, if I don't have time to stop, I just push the button and the GoPro does what it does. So, you know, I go to museums. I like history. I'm a big history buff. So, you know, I get out. In New Mexico, I've been to the Billy the Kid stuff that they have in the museums and shops and stuff. I do get out of my truck a lot. I don't like being in here. Like, I fucking live in here. I'm trying to get the fuck out. But when it comes to these kind of back-to-back really crazy fucking runs, you have to be a little bit more strict. And that's where you can play with the time if you want to. I mean, you can do whatever you want as long as you get to point A and point B on time. I have 100% on time, and I intend to keep it that way, and I like to credit that a lot to how I run. I don't leave myself any leeway on the back end to fuck up anything. I get it all out of the way in the beginning, and then I have a lot of time to fuck off at the end. So that was my day today, and tomorrow I'll make another little snippet where I will transition going from this load into the next one, and then just little snippets along the way, doing a 2,053 mile load in what's really going to be 3 days. So one of those days I'll probably wind up doing 1.5 shifts during that 124-hour period. People are going to be like, how can you do that? You drive 14 hours. Look, it can be done, especially when you're working at night, because your clock starts and stops at midnight. So if you work it the right way, and I've had it before where my miles for the day, you know, it'll say like 300 or 400 and something on one day, and it'll say 400 and something in the next day, and you actually it's hard to explain. It's hard to translate what I'm trying to tell you. But you can drive in one 24-hour period. You can drive a lot depending on when you start and stop driving, according to midnight. So you may only get like 200 or 300 miles if you start driving, say at like 10 o'clock at night. Then for that day, you're going to have like 200 or 300 miles, which is not even accurate. You would probably get like 180 in that time frame. And then like the next day, so you drove 3 hours, so you have another 7 hours or 8 hours, I'm sorry, that you can drive. And then you sleep for 10 hours. And then that very same day, you go back out again until midnight. So that is how, whenever I have these long, long loads, that's how I make the clock work for me. I use the whole fucking clock and I use it to my advantage. And it's just little tricks like that that you learn along the way. My mentors were really, really good at, both of them, at teaching me how to use the clocks and really how to make them work for me. Sometimes, I'd say about 90% of the time, I don't ever have to worry about it. If I do a favor and pick up a load, like here in Jurupa Valley, they're always trying to get me to do something that seems really fast. Oh, can you take this empty trailer 15 miles north? Sounds really easy, right? 5 hours later, you're still sitting in traffic with the same fucking trailer. Like, I don't pick up favors from Jurupa Valley anymore because it's not, no. The answer is no. So anyways, I hope this is helpful to somebody. If not, sorry. Y'all wanted to see me document, what goes on in the day-to-day. All that happened while I was not filming was I took a break. I ate some deviled eggs and bacon. I drank some ketones. And, yeah, and a protein bar. I mean, that's about it. I'm a keto girl, so lots of protein on this truck. Lots and lots of protein. So that's it for today. And again, tomorrow I'll make some snippets along the way. And I probably won't post that video until after I've already delivered the load. So peace out, y'all.